Welcome to today's program. My name is Marshall Brown. I'm a career and executive coach and personal brand strategist. And I've tailored today's program really based on your brand in relationship to job transition. Building your brand and standing and sticking with your brand is critical today to be effective in the world of work. No matter what stage of your job search or your professional development you might be in. So this is our agenda for today. This is what we're going to talk about. First thing is a quick overview of what the new world of work is and why it's important for you to be proactive. Again, no matter whether you're in transition now, you're thinking about a job change and to developing your brand now, or you're thinking about making a job change in 6 months to a year from now. Developing your brand, having a job search strategy is critical. So we're going to talk about the new world of work. We're going to talk about the secrets and of how to do an effective job search. We're going to talk about how there are certain techniques that don't work and that are job transition killers. Obviously, we're going to talk about personal branding, the importance of networking when building your brand. And then I also want to talk briefly about the importance of Google and making sure that you have a strong Google presence. We'll finish up with a really good assessment tool that I use with my clients. Unfortunately, I did not develop it. A brand guru, as far as I'm concerned, a gentleman by the name of William Aruda, developed this really excellent tool. Much of it is free, and then if you want to add on to it with additional benefits, obviously there's a fee for that, but I'll tell you about that as we wrap up. So that's where we're headed today. Building your brand is all about making sure that you know what you have to offer and that others know what you have to offer. What makes you unique? What makes you stand out from your competition? And again, keep in mind, this just doesn't apply to when you are in job search. Building your brand needs to be part of your professional development plan. This is something that you start developing now if you haven't. And if you're in early stages of your career, start developing it now. Personal branding is critical in the world of work today. So the world of work is very different today. Many of us were brought up to believe that if you went to work and you were loyal to the employer and the employer was loyal to you, you could more or less be there for the next 25 to 30 years. You would retire maybe with a gold watch, set of golf clubs, whatever, right? Well, if you haven't figured it out yet, those days are over. There's no employer loyalty any longer, and there's no employee loyalty any longer. And if you don't believe me, pick up the paper, listen to CNN or whatever your news show of the day is. Every day we hear about this company going out of business, this organization downsizing, right-sizing, whatever you want to call it. This employer is laying off 10,000 people, whatever it might be. Okay? The world of work is very different today. You have to manage your career today. You have to prepare yourself and be proactive when it comes to your own professional development. You can no longer wait around for your employer to say, oh, you should join this organization. You should go to this conference of this association. This is what you need to develop yourself. Those days are over. You have to manage your own career today. You've got to know your brand. You have to know what your brand is, what your uniqueness is, what is going to separate you from your competition. The world of work today is also such that you have to keep on learning. You want to join an association. You want to join organizations where you're going to be meeting like-minded people. People that are doing the kinds of things that you want to be doing, again, either now or later on. Great way to develop yourself. Get involved. Meet people. Meet people that are doing the kinds of things that you want to be doing. And as you're meeting people, you want to develop your network. And for many people, by the way, even the word network scares them. So if you don't like the word network, change it to something else. I don't care. Call it building relationships, whatever you want to call it. You want to develop a network. And if you haven't done this already, if you walk away with nothing else today, even if it's not about branding, you walk away with this idea of it's critical to have a network today. And what I mean by that is groups of people that know you and that you know them, that you can call on for professional development ideas. What other organizations should you be joining? If you have challenges or something that's facing you on your desk, that you can call them. Okay? And using your network, when you do decide that you're going to make a job search, that you can call so-and-so and say, I'm thinking about making a transition. You know my skills. You know what I've been doing over the last 10 years. Maybe you have some ideas for me. And maybe you have someone that I should be connected to. It's about building relationships with these people. And it's not just a one-time hit. And I would suggest that you not do it just when you are in job search. It's an ongoing process that you should start early in your career. So, manage your own career. Know your brand. Keep on learning. Developing your network. While I'm talking about networking, you want to develop a network that can also help you to gain additional information about business trends. This is where joining an association, groups of individuals that are like-minded, you have to know what's happening in your industry today. You have to know business trends. You have to know what the competencies of your industry. And by joining organizations and by networking with people, that's where you're going to get that knowledge. Right? For many people in the world of work today, I also suggest to them that they prepare for competencies and not just jobs. People are creating jobs every day for themselves in very unique situations, regardless of what their title was or is now. Who would have known even 5 years ago that we would have had people that did social media? Prepare yourself for competencies. Prepare yourself, develop your skills, not necessarily based on job titles. Job titles typically can be changed. It's not that important anymore. You want to prepare yourself for competencies. And another reason you want to prepare yourself for competencies is that if by some chance your department, your organization gets downsized or right-sized, you want to have skills that are transferable to another department or to another team. That's how people are surviving in the world of work today. Prepare yourself for competencies, not just jobs. So sometimes I'm asked, well, Marshall, how do I know what my brand is? How do I manage all this, right? I'm going to give you a tip, something that has worked not just for me, but for many of my clients. And that is to create a vision for yourself, personally, professionally, what it is that you do want. And it might not be a 10-year vision, okay? It might only be a 1-year vision. And for many people, I have them write a story as if it's already happened, or they actually create a vision board that has pictures and words on it that are meaningful for them, what they do want to have happen to them. Rather than, oh, I was just laid off, I don't know what my skills are, I don't know what I want to do next. That's negative energy. That probably won't get you very far. But if you come at it from the perspective of, this is what I'm looking to do, these are my skills, a year from now, this is where I'm sitting, this is what I'm doing, the phone is ringing, someone's calling me because they have a problem, figuring out what that problem might be and why you're the best person sitting in that seat, creating that vision, that will help you to move forward, that will help you to manage your career more effectively. General tips on how to do an effective job search. You've got to know what you have to offer. What are your successes? What are your accomplishments? What's your experience? You've got to know what your brand is. Not only what you perceive it to be, but what others think your brand is. It's got to be a well thought out approach. Just as you would manage any other project, you have to manage your career and your job search as if it was a project. It's got to be logical, a systematic approach. And just as you would have timelines and appointments based on the project that you're managing, this is the same way. Treat your job transition as if it was a project. Use your time, your resources wisely. We're all limited for time. We're all being stretched more than we were before. We all have other obligations. It's about life-work balance here too, right? So you want to be sure that you're using your time wisely. And to do an effective job search today, you have to know what you have to offer an organization. You've got to be able to market your value. And in your resume, and when you get to the interviewing point, you have to be able to market what your value is. You have to be able to show people not only that you did something, but what the results are. This is the situation that you were in. The actions that you took were these, which resulted in. That's an indicator of how you will perform for them. Make sure you know what the situation, the actions, and the results were. This is how you do an effective job search today. The process basically is simple. You define your timeline. Is this something that I'm looking to do within the next 3 months? Is it something 6 months now that I'm thinking about making a job transition? Or is it a year from now? Define what your timeline is. Define your objective. Is this something that I want to be doing full time? Is this something maybe I'll do as a job share with someone? Do I want to be telecommuting? What's important to me with my next opportunity? For many people, it's the idea that they don't have to commute 2 hours a day, that they can work from home. That sometimes is more important than what the actual salary is, what the actual compensation is. Know what your objective is. Look at all the possibilities. Just because this is what you've been doing for the last 10 years doesn't mean that this is what you have to do for the next 10 years, or the next 5 years, or even the next year. Look at all the possibilities. Don't box yourself in. Do your homework, do research. It's easy to do that today. You know, we can find anything on Google or Bing or whatever source you use. Do your homework, do your research. By the way, this is also a great place to use your network. And when I say use, I don't mean in a abusive way. I don't mean to always be taking. What I mean by that is build your relationships, build your network so that as you receive from one person, you can also give to someone else. If you can't give back to that immediate person, you give to someone else. Okay? Do your research. Know the industry. Lots of ways to do that nowadays. And again, look at it as a project, not just something that you have to do. That's too much negative energy. Look at it as a project or a process. But by doing number one, which was identifying your timeline, that's going to really help you. If your timeline is such that this is something you have to do within the next 3 months, you've got to use your time very wisely that way. If it's maybe something you're thinking about in 6 months, you can spread it out a little bit more. You can get more involved in an organization. So I talked about what works. Let's talk about what doesn't work. You've just gotten laid off. You've worked for this company for the last 10 years. What will kill you if you continue with that negative energy? Because if you stay in this place, that's going to be a number one killer for you. And I've seen this with many of my clients. They stay in that negative place, and they're not able to move forward. Yes, take the time to deal with that anger, disappointment, whatever those feelings might be, and then you got to put it behind you. You turn down the volume of that negative energy, and you turn up the energy of, I still have my accomplishments, I still have my successes, I still have my education. That is what's going to make you powerful. Trying to do it on your own, forget it. You've got to bring other people in. For many people, they need the support of just being accountable to someone else. Whatever you need to do, bring other people into it. And I'll tell you, one of the job search killers that I see out there is when people don't look at it as that this is a marketing opportunity for them. It's all about marketing brand you today. You have to look at yourself as a product today. It's all about marketing you as a brand. And for many people, this is difficult. So you take your time in building it and getting more comfortable with it. But to be successful in the world of work today, you have to be a brand. All right, let's talk about a brand. So what is a brand? It's really simple. It's your unique promise of value. It's what you promise to deliver in every way that you possibly can. Typically, when we think about branding, we think of corporations. Many of them you see here on the screen. Typically, when we think of companies like Volvo, What comes to mind for you? Family. It's words like solid, secure, strong, expensive. These are brand attributes that we associate with Volvo. Or when you think of Disney, for instance. When we think of Disney, that's a great example. Disney, what do we think of? We think of family. We think of customer service. We think of cleanliness. If all of a sudden Disney did not live up to those standards or that brand, we would think very differently about Disney. So again, this is how we typically think of branding a product or a service. What you want to be able to do is identify brand attributes that are attributable to you. As I said, it's all about what your unique promise of value is. It's your trusted brand. So that no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter what your website or your blog or your resume reads, it's in alignment with what your brand is. William Arruda is known as one of the gurus of personal branding. And what he says personal branding is all about is what makes you unique is what makes you successful. And he's very right. What makes you unique makes you successful, because that's how you're going to outshine your competition. That's how you will separate yourself from your competition. So let's get back to this idea so we're all clear on what a brand attribute is. What we mean by that is what are words that are associated with you? What are the attributes that are associated with you? Example, for me, if you would ask people about my brand attributes, typically what people would say is, Marshall's friendly, he's funny, he's caring. These are brand attributes that are associated with me. Everything that I do, everything I say, it goes back to those the brand attributes. Now, other people would say other things, okay? But typically associated with me is words like connector, networker. You want to be able to identify your brand attributes. So again, brand attributes are what makes you different from other people. Now you could say, well, Marshall, you're not the only networker. Well, yeah, of course. Okay? I'm not saying that I'm the only one that has a brand attribute of being a networker, but it's the combination of all my brand attributes along with my skills, along with my accomplishments, and my experience, my education, etc., that is going to separate me from my competition. So this is only one piece, right? But it's an important piece. Be able to identify what your brand attributes are. Let me show you an example. So when people think about Richard Branson, words that typically we associate with him, his brand attributes, are words like innovative, bold, successful, risk taker, competitive. When we think of Oprah Winfrey, words typically that will come to mind after you get through the wealthy piece: human, concerned, empathetic, genuine, and warm. Everything that she does is associated with her brand. She built a successful brand obviously for her products. She also built a successful brand for her. So it's not just about branding a product. It's about your personal brand also. And everyone in this room, everyone listening, needs to have a personal brand. What words, what descriptives do people think of when they think of you? What's your uniqueness? So an exercise, if you're not sure of what your brand attributes are, what could be words that are associated with you and some of your competition? Think about some of the words that make you different from your competition. And then you go out and test that. Because any marketing expert will tell you, you need to test your product. So this is the same thing. You go out and ask people. What kind of words do you typically associate for me? How do you view me? And then you check to see if that's in alignment with what you believe your brand to be. As William will say, to be outstanding, you've got to stand out. You've got to know what your brand is, and others have to know what your brand is too. And while we're talking about standing out, having a strong Google presence, critical. Again, whether you're in job search or not, you have to have a strong Google presence today. Think about it. Do you Google other people? Most will say yes. Well, that kind of means probably somebody's Googling you right now. You want to be sure that you show up on the first or second page of Google. And if you don't, or if there's digital dirt out there about you, you want to be sure that's on the third or fourth page. Typically, people won't go past the second page. And it's not like, by the way, you can call Google and say, oh, can you remove me from my digital dirt from the first page? You have to develop ways to have a strong Google presence. Do presentations, write articles, get involved, write a blog. These are ways that if you do have digital dirt out there, typically what happens is those things come to the top and the digital dirt goes to the third or fourth page. Now, this is not a program on how to develop a Google presence. What I'm suggesting you do, though, is to be successful, to have a brand today, you have to show up on Google. Another way to show up on Google is by having a strong LinkedIn presence. If you would have asked me this 4 years ago, Marshall, what do you think about the importance of LinkedIn? I would have said, oh, not going to happen. Boy, was I wrong. You have to have a LinkedIn presence today. And not just a presence that has your picture and a small descriptive of what you have to offer, or what your skills are, what your qualifications are. You want to have a strong profile of what your qualifications are. You want to have recommendations from other people. If you have publications, if you've done presentations, all that information needs to be on your LinkedIn profile today. Yes, absolutely you want to have a strong LinkedIn profile. However, I would suggest that you don't rely, and you can't rely, on just LinkedIn today to do a successful job search. It's a great way to connect with people, but nothing beats the one-on-one face-to-face. LinkedIn is great for research. LinkedIn is great to find out information about other people or organizations. It still doesn't beat the face-to-face. But have a strong LinkedIn presence. That will increase your Google presence. So, to summarize, the world of work is very different today. And if you're going to play in the world of work today, you have to know your brand. You have to understand that you have to take charge of your career, and it's about marketing brand you. Your brand is the only constant. Lots of things are changing in the world of work today. I started out this conversation by talking about the world of work is very different. People are getting downsized, right-sized. People aren't paying as much attention to titles anymore. It's very different. But what you can control is your brand. And again, everything you do, everything you say has to tie back to your brand. And you've got to strive for what's going to make you distinct, what's going to separate you from your competition. It's about being authentic. Right? You can't necessarily make up a brand. Oprah Winfrey didn't wake up one morning and say she wanted to be warm, genuine, concerned, yada, yada, yada. Her warmth and her genuineness is coming from her authenticity. That's who she is. You want to discover that for yourself. You also want to discover what differentiates you from your competition. And it's also about being relevant. Knowing what's happening in your industry, making sure that you are keeping yourself relevant. So, to recap, what is a brand? It is a unique promise of value. It's unique because it separates you from your peers, from all the other like-minded competition. Okay? It's a promise, and it's based on what is true and authentic about you. So it's a promise. So far it's unique, it's a promise, and it's a value. It's a value to your target audience, and it's a value to those that are going to help you become even more successful. Unique promise of value. That's what you want to know about yourself. That's what you want to go out and market yourself on, whether you're in job search now or not, part of your ongoing professional development. 2 resources I'm going to provide you with. Highly recommend. One actually is written by William Arruda. It's called Career Distinction. It was written by William and a woman by the name of Kirsten Dixon. Highly recommend it. Has great exercises in it on how you can make your brand distinct and how you can go about knowing what your brand is. There's also another book, and it's been out for a number of years. I've been following this guy ever since he started out. It's called Never Eat Alone, written by Keith Ferrazzi. It's all about effective ways to develop your network. Excellent book. If you're struggling with, I have a hard time joining an organization, or I'm not sure how to connect with people, I'm not sure how I should go about developing my network, developing my relationships. Excellent, excellent book. He's written several after that. This is still the one I go back to a lot. A tool that I mentioned earlier, which I would also suggest, is on William's website. It's an assessment tool that you can complete yourself. It's a 360 assessment. So in other words, you complete it yourself, and then you can send it out to other people and ask them what brand attributes they associate you with. And then you get, I think it's like a 3 or 4 page report back as a summary. And then if you want more information, it's still very reasonable. It's part of your investing in your career, but the first part of it is a free assessment tool, and you see the link here. I strongly encourage you to look at this 360 assessment. It's a really good tool to help you identify what your brand attributes are. And then finally, I do have a monthly newsletter that I send out. It's complimentary, and this is where you can go to sign up for it.